Highclere Castle and Downton Abbey are, between the history of the house and then Downton Abbey, which was filmed here for a TV series over some 6 years, and then the film 2 years ago at this time of year, and then this time last year we were all gathered in cinema shouting and screaming and dancing and laughing, and now we're standing behind masks with some distance between us and probably not going straight into the cinema at the moment. I know there's a James Bond film on, and I think I might try and see in the cinema, so we have some cinemas left. But it is a very strange and different world, but I hope Highclere for today is a world apart. It's been here for a long time. We're all pretty ancient, sometimes we feel it, but there's been a home here since 749 AD at least, standing in this particular site. King Custard of Wessex granted this estate and whatever buildings that were here to the bishops of Winchester in an Anglo-Saxon charter in 749 AD. 100 years before Alfred the Great was born, a little bit before the Battle of Hastings, or the Domesday Book, which is also in which Highclere is mentioned. And the bishops of Winchester owned it for 800 years. It passed out of their hands really at the dissolution of the monasteries, and my husband's had it since 1679, if not completely personally, because he would then have an elixir of youth. That's when his family acquired it, and they at that time bought a red brick gentleman's place house, if you like, which then became a Georgian house, very Jane Austen. And then the third Earl of Carnarvon in 1842, the date up there, asked Sir Charles Barry, who was doing the Houses of Parliament, to create the castle on top of the earlier buildings that you see today. So does anybody know how many rooms it's got? Guessing game. Any offers? 89. 89, thank you, sir. 103. 103. I love the precision. Anybody else?
300.
Come on, Ash, you should know this.
I have
No
no
idea.
idea.
300? Well, much closer, between 250 and 300 rooms.
Oh my God.
Between 50 and 80
This
bedrooms. So it is stately, and yet it's a home, because I didn't want to preserve a museum. So it's the cluster of everyday life, because this was built as a home, and that's what it's always been for 1200 years. A home where people have eaten and drunk, had parties, welcomed people, gathered people in the bad weather, and then it's been celebrated as a home through Downton Abbey. And that's what it was for them as well. It was their home, which they were fighting to keep and survive. So it's an amazing place to live. You're in 1,000 acres of Caperty Brown Parkland, and then you've got a few hundred acres of gardens and lawns, so you can do your 10,000 steps after tea if you haven't done them. And then we farm 4,000 or 5,000 acres of farm and woodland beyond that. So it's an amazing community here. I think it's a sense of family. Some of the people who work here live in cottages here as well. Our oldest employee is now 94 and going strong, and the youngest are college leavers who sadly cannot get any jobs, who are working in the tea rooms or rounded about, and it's a step on their journey as they try and find what jobs they do want to carry on and do. So it is an amazing place to be a part of, and I think that to me is at the heart of it. I hope we always do quite a lot to help with charities, and our business is welcoming visitors. So in lockdown it was completely catastrophic, and an overwhelming sense of loneliness and fear and dread, just as I think for all of us. And it's been lovely to be able to get up and start walking again, keeping calm and carrying on. And as we all go through, we're just going to figure out how to live with it. We're doing a little festival for the World War II actually on October the 10th and 11th. Again, thinking how our grandparents and parents kept calm and carried on. It's a home for evacuee children. So there were these tiny children who were 3, 4, 5 years old, and you as their parents were left in London. So you had to part company from your children. You had to make all these compromises, but there was a spirit of cooperation and survival, which is perhaps the one thing we haven't quite yet found. But we are keeping going. It's a fun house. You're going to have a really fun afternoon, and then lots of delicious food. And I have been sampling your soup and quiches. And actually, you're normally sampling the cakes, aren't you? But it's fun. So yes, I'm going to stop talking. Unless anyone's got any questions before I disappear.
Yes, what does this say?
Well, that says Ugche Servere. Only one will I serve. And in some ways, in the dining room, when you get to it, you'll find there's a huge portrait by Anthony van Dyck of Charles I on horseback, the divine right of king. He was, of course, executed, and powers of tax and army then passed to Parliament. So it's about who do we serve? Where does the executive power lie? So it's actually quite an interesting motto for the time we're living in now. Who do we serve? So unless my husband probably thinks I'm trying to look after him, actually. But right, Alison, do you want to start counting
Yes,
people
lovely.
in?
So Barbara's going to lead the first group into